It's the Tab 100, I'm the Broken Meeple, it's hot, and I'm in a polo shirt. Let's get on with it. Hi everyone and welcome to the Broken Meeple. I'm Luke Hector, and if this is your first time checking out the channel, then stay tuned for a list of board games that you may want to check out for yourself. Failing that, check out the rest of my content to find out more. And if any of the games on this list take your fancy, then consider checking out zatu.co.uk, where you can get 5% off any game purchase you make, no minimum limit, by using the code TBMeeple5 as quoted below. It's another set of 10, we're clambering on with these now, trying to get them done, but I'm still uncertain as to how many I'm going to be streaming. Definitely the top 30, but will it be the top 50? I don't know. I need you guys' feedback on that. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see. Do you fancy live streaming for top 30, or do you want it for top 50, or do you want pre-recorded up to 30? Let me know and I'll see what I can do. So we're looking at my 70 through to 61 today, and on this case there's only one new game to talk about. Same goes for the next set of 10 really. To be honest, most new games aren't really going to be mentioned until we get to my top 30 games, but occasionally you will see the odd new one creeping in. But if this is your first time checking out my top 100, then pretty much everything's new to you anyway.
Get on with it!
The number 70 is the brand new game to this list. It is a co-op game and it's been brought back in its second edition. Looks the absolute business, done by a publisher I'd never even heard of before. But I'd heard of this game literally only in whispers from Z Garcia. He kept going on about it, going on saying it's like, oh, this is a really good one, it's like out of print, cannot get it anymore. And then it came out for a second edition. It's like, okay, finally, I'm gonna try it. Hey, it was all warranted. This is a solid co-op game, one that is enjoyable solo, 2-player, scales all the way up to 7 players, although granted you are expecting a longer game when you get to 7 players. But that is Atlantis Rising, second edition, on the shelf down there. It is a really gorgeous looking co-op game. Artwork all done by Vincent Dutrait, who I swear is a machine. There is no way any human being can draw as much artwork as Vincent does, because pretty much his artwork is plastered over so many games. I swear he does nothing else in his life, or he is a machine AI that is doing everything for him. But this co-op has you on a sinking island of Atlantis, trying to put together this weird contraption, scientific mumbo jumbo, in order to float the island away and get to safety. You place your meeples on the outside areas, the outside sort of peninsular areas, and they allow you to do actions in order to get the materials you need to build the machine, as well as get more workers that can help you out. Unfortunately, the island sinks at different times based on a deck of cards, and so you might put your guy further down the peninsula because it's like, oh, the action's better down there. But if it sinks, you get the worker back, but you don't get the action. So you gotta kind of push your luck as to whether something's gonna sink, or how badly do you want the better action, or are you willing to have a weaker action by stepping back a bit. Apart from that, you have a few extra items that you can build as each part of the machine effectively has a special ability you can have. You've got player powers, there's a robot AI that you can use for 1 and 2 player games. It's a really solid co-op game. Very simple rules. The rules are pretty straightforward. We're talking what, like a step above something like Forbidden Desert really in terms of rules. There's not a lot in this game, but it just seems to do the trick. It kind of took me back to the old school style of co-op games when I first joined the hobby. When I first got into it, it's like 6-7 years ago or so, and I thought like, oh yeah, these co-op games are really good. And this was like the basic co-op games where it was just about sitting down and having fun with other players, working together as a team. Atlantis Rising does that just as well. Of course, avoid the alpha gamer as always, but other than that, solid game at my number 70. My number 69 has gone up in one entire parsec. Yep, one whole parsec it's climbed, and that's probably going to give you a slight clue as to what it is. This is a Star Wars game, funny enough, but which one in particular? Well, this is one that is based on a genre that I normally don't particularly like. I'm not a huge fan of pick up and deliver games, but when you put a decent theme with it and you make it thematic, I'm like, okay, I'll get behind this. And, you know, occasionally I don't need a theme. I mean, Spike is a train pick up and deliver game, and I still like that one. I mean, that should already cause some of your brains to explode. But Star Wars Outer Rim is a really good thematic Star Wars game about being one of the smugglers. Han Solo, Boba Fett, Droid X23ZX81, whatever. I mean, yeah, I don't know. There's all sorts of weird names for some of these characters in Star Wars. But you do have, oh yeah, of course, you do have the Great Bosk. And how can you have a smuggler game without Bosk? Come on, really? With this game, you are doing errands, completing missions while building up a ship. You know, you start off with a rubbish little ship, and then eventually you buy one of the flagships that you know from the series, like the Millennium Falcon. And then you can get other characters to be crew on your ship. You meet up with other people from the Star Wars lore. You might, you know, tick off the Jabba the Hutt and the Hutts during the game, but then you might be on the side of the Imperials, and you might be not too good with the Rebels, but different missions for different folks. They get you different rewards, and it just feels like a nice quintessential Star Wars game. You're not flashing around lightsabers and doing any of the Jedi stuff. This is all about the smuggling racket, but it just feels great. Well, until you have Chewbacca on your ship and then somebody comes along and takes Chewbacca away as a bounty. That's annoying. But, you know, these things happen. You go hunt down other characters, whether they're on somebody else's ship or not, as bounties. You go and, you know, shoot each other's ships up if need be. You go destroy a few TIE fighters while you're at it. It's just a really good thematic Star Wars game that uses a genre I'm not usually a fan of. Does it take a little bit of a while to play? Yeah. Is it a little bit low on the replay value side currently? Yes, they could do with some more cards in the box. Hopefully, fingers crossed, Fantasy Flight will do what they normally do and bring out a million, well, okay, not a million expansions. Can you just bring out one and just up those card decks a bit? That'd be great. But, you know, I don't get to play this one all the time, so it's not like I'm completely remembering every single card in the game. But every time I play it, it feels good. It gives me a good Star Wars theme, much like another one that you'll see on the list later, but you know, this is a solid title and definitely worth giving a try. My number 68 has actually climbed 6 places. It's kind of a bit steady around this area really, and this mechanic has been used in other games, one of which you'll see a bit later on, but the idea of deck building is always good fun to me. So the idea of card building? Card building? How does that work? Well, Mystic Vale was the poster child for how this mechanic worked. You effectively built the cards. You had a standard deck of 20 cards, some starter cards and some completely blank, that were in these pocket sleeves. And then what you did was that you bought these advancements, which were basically special abilities and boosts that you slotted into the sleeves themselves and created your own deck via building up the cards individually. So each card could have 3 different abilities on it, like top, middle, and bottom row actions, sorry. And then by creating the card, you create your whole unique card that you have. No one else has it. And when it comes up, it performs all the effects. You might create a bunch of cards with a lot of little effects. You might decide to focus your time on creating like 5 powerhouse monster cards. And with the expansions for this game, there's so many advancements now, I've lost track, that the amount of replay value in this game is ridiculous. Does it struggle a bit with 3 and 4 players? Yes, until you get the Conclave expansion, in which case then you have the mechanic in there to have 2 people taking turns simultaneously, which solves that problem. The recent expansion I bought even has a way to play it solo, and I've yet to try that. Whether I'll do that as a solo play though, I don't know. I feel that the sleeves will glare on the light far too much, but I need to give that a try at some point, much like all sorts of things I want to give a try. But I love the idea of creating the cards themselves. I mean, the artwork is already gorgeous, but it just sort of took deck building, which I already liked, and gave me a whole new take on it. A really cool, innovative concept. Again, innovation, something I really love in games, but it wasn't just a gimmick, it was actually good fun, and I like to get this game out. And there's even a brilliant Steam app version for it. I think it's on Android and Apple, I'm not entirely sure, don't quote me on that, but certainly check it out on Steam. There's a solid app for this game if you want to give it a try. So Mystic Vale going up. Probably won't go up too much more unless maybe the solo mode completely blows me away, but definitely it's going to hang around here because I really do like this game. Number 67 has risen 2 places, and I think this is the last we're going to see of anything on this set of 10 where something has risen. The rest have all fallen, but 2 places, whatever, it's remaining steady, and it is still, I believe, my third, yes, it will be my 3rd favorite Vital Lacerda game. So again, we got a nice big heavy game, dosed up in theme, taking one of my favorite alcoholic beverages and making it into a good fun Euro, and that is Vinhos Deluxe Edition. Now I've got to be a little bit specific with this one because I have the new Vinhos Deluxe, so the big box, huge Eagle Griffin one that was put out. I'm also specifically talking about the 2016 version that is in the box, which is kind of like the streamlined version of the original Vinhos. You can still play the original 2010 version in this box and it still looks gorgeous and everything, but I much prefer the 2016 version. The 2010 one adds a lot of extra complications, you got to mess around with banks and stuff, and it's like, I just want to make wine. I don't want to be messing around trying to balance my checkbook. Yes, I need money to be a constraint, but you can just give me money and tell me how to buy and sell wine. Do I have enough money? No. Do I have to mess around with a bank? No. You know, bank loans, whatever, I don't care. But with the 2016 version, it's just this great idea of, you know, I've got all these different areas of the country that I can go and build vineyards in, each one having a different effect on the wine or the people that I work with, or by like the quality of said wine. You then you don't necessarily grow the grapes, you basically just like produce the wine. But then from there you can either sell it off to local stores, export it overseas, or you prep up for the fair. And I love these takes in thematic games. In fact, you're going to see this represented once or twice more at least on this list going forward. But the idea that you're prepping for this big event, and then the event happens, and then you try again, and then you prep up for the next event. It feels like it's a tale of progression in a thematic Euro game, and I love it when you get stuff like that. Here, you're producing the wine in time for a fair. You put your wine in the fair, you try and get a decent stall for some bonuses. Your wine is rated based on its quality versus other factors. You might get some expert tiles in to help you with that, trying to say, this is a particularly good taste here, there's particularly good, I don't know, what's it called, legs? It's been a while since I've been to a wine tasting, but you've got all these different things that go into it. You value the wine, that gets you some points, gets you some bonus tiles for endgame scoring, and then you go again, try and improve the wine or grow different wines, check out other vineyards, borrow from other people's estates effectively. It's just a really good fun game about making a wine business. That's something that's got to be stipulated. It's a bit different from something like viticulture where you're physically growing the wine, even though you are still selling it off at the end of the day. This is more that you're running a vineyard business. You could have several vineyards and you make the wine and you do stuff with it. You're not really getting involved with the whole grape growing or the physical production of said wine, other than the fact that you just go, right, here's my vineyard, here's the meeples and workers I've put in it, and here's some other factors, the weather is good, and here's my wine rating of whatever. But it really holds well to the theme. It's got a nice little action selection mechanic. It just really works for me, this one. My third favorite Vital Lacerda game, Vinhos 2016 edition. My number 66 has dropped 15 places, and I still enjoy this game. Haven't played it in a while. It's a little bit of a mammoth to teach people, so I'm usually playing it with people who know what they're doing rather than teaching brand new players. But the game is solid fun, even though the theme is a little bit pasted on, if you've got to admit. Yeah, it looks cool, and I like the theme they've used, but when you think about it, you're moving dice around this outside area, you're building up a pyramid based on what symbols are orientated the right way. You got to admit, the theme's a little bit tacked on in places. But I'm not even going to bother pronouncing it. Can you even see it? Yeah. That. Oh no, you can't even see it in the camera. Well, that one. City of Gods, whatever. You can see the title on the screen. Teote, whatever. Every time I try to pronounce this name, I get it wrong, and I know people are going to say this is how you do it phonetically and whatever. I just like to make a joke about it. But this game, I'm not even going to try and say it. I'm not going to do it. I'm so tempted, but I'm not going to do it. This one by Nenio Tassini is a really solid, heavy Euro game. It's got a lot of different options for how you can play it. You've got variable setup with the starting resources and the way the tiles are set up. So there's all sorts of replay value in here. And I've got both expansions in it. So I've got the Orange Temple, I've got the extra setup tiles, I've got the extra player powers. Even though they're not entirely all balanced, I must admit, they are still good fun to use. And it's just a very entertaining Euro game. This is one of those ones where the theme isn't necessarily the thing that's drawing me in here. I just think that mechanically it's really solid. Even the solo mode's pretty good in it as well, although it's a little bit clunky to work with in the sense that you gotta learn a bit of extra rules and how to operate it. But when you do get it working, it is pretty good. But for me, this is just one I love to play out with a good 3 or 4 of us to have a good, fun, heavy Euro mix. That's my number 66. Yeah, that one. My number 65 has dropped 7 places, and this is a Ryan Lockett game, Red Raven Games. I love a lot of his stuff, not every single game he's made, but every time he brings out a new one, I'm like, ooh, I want to know, and believe me, cannot wait for Sleeping Gods when that comes out. Sleeping Gods is effectively our semi-sequel to this one, and that is Near and Far. Near and Far, I've played pretty much solely with one group of players, except this group of players are ones that we played like all the campaigns. We played the full like 11-part campaign, we played the character campaigns, we might even go back to it again at some point and play for another character campaign because, you know, we enjoy the game that much. Or I can just play it in arcade mode where we just use the deck of cards rather than the storybook for the quests. It's just a really good blend of theme with storytelling, as well as some interesting streamlined Euro mechanics, building up your crew of people with different skills and abilities, and then going out into the wilderness to find quests, get money, get gems, build trade routes. There's all sorts of cool stuff that you can do, but everything just feels smooth. Nothing feels clunky in this game. Once you got the rules down, it's like, yeah, I just need to go there, this does this, let's go out for a bit. Right, I'm back. Right, let's set up the crew again for our next visit. Right, I'm off. You know, it just tells like a really good story with all these different abilities you can use, and the quests themselves and the story is interesting as well. Okay, it's not going to win any awards, but it keeps you engaged, and the let's say the scenarios you get into are interesting. But as you go through the campaign, you get like, oh, there's some reoccurring characters, and oh yeah, there's this bad guy. Why are we dealing with him? And it just does a nice job. Now, some people know of Above and Below. I played it. It's fine. I like the idea of it. The problem was the Euro game part of it didn't quite measure up to the rest of it. Whereas in this case, the Euro game does measure up to the rest of it. And now that we're getting a nautical version that's co-op in that same sort of vein, cannot wait for Sleeping Gods. But for now, Near and Far will do me nicely. My number 64 has probably had the biggest drop on this list. Yeah, 34 places this has dropped. It was my number 30. Now my number 64. That's not exactly a bad thing. You're still on my top 100, but this one has not been played for a while. It's got a lot of expansion bloat, and at the moment it's just kind of hard to get it to the table because it's trying to find people who like negotiation games. But I do really enjoy this one when it comes out, but mainly I tend to reserve it for conventions and things like that, and that is Cosmic Encounter. It's a great negotiation game. This wacky nature of everybody's got a different alien power, and you're trying to colonize other planets, and you decide, all right, I've got to attack green over there. Who's going to join me? Who's going to join me on this fight? And everybody's got some game-breaking player power that can do all sorts of weird, wacky stuff to you at the worst of possible times, and it's just a case of who gets to 5 colonies. But everybody is making deals with each other, you're bluffing each other, do you want to negotiate? Do you want to negotiate? Come on, I'm totally nice. I'm nice? You want to be nice? Oh, ha! And then you backstab them in the face. It's all great, but in jest. But it's a great, solid negotiation game. If anything, I've just maybe bloated it up a bit too much with expansions, so I have to kind of arrange the game in such a way that I can just go, right, here's my base set, that's all I need. But when you bloat it with too many expansions, it's a bit unwieldy. But I feel that you just need a bunch of aliens you like, maybe 1 expansion. The hazard deck is pretty cool, and that's pretty much it, really. The rest of it, well, no, actually, no, not the hazard deck. I'm thinking, what's it called? The rewards deck. Yeah, just get an expansion with the rewards deck, some extra aliens every now and again, and you're pretty good. You don't really need all the other expansions, because let's face it, there's enough replay value in a game with all the aliens you get. But it's still a good bit of fun. I just tend to reserve it mainly for conventions, but when it does come out, I have a good amount of fun. Cosmic Encounter. My number 63 has dropped 13 places, and this is the other Star Wars game, actually. I didn't realise it was coming up so soon. I mentioned Star Wars Outer Rim, the pick up and deliver Star Wars game, but let's just say you want Star Wars in a box. Like, the entire original trilogy in a box, from start to finish. You only have 2 of you, and you have a spare 3 hours. Yeah, my one issue with this game, which is why it's dropping a bit lately, is because it is a long game. And that is Star Wars Rebellion. Star Wars Rebellion is just dripping with Star Wars theme, especially when you throw in the expansion that fixes the one problem the base game had, which was the combat being a little bit clunky and a bit like whatever. Here though, you've now got cinematic cards to use with the combat, and it makes it a lot better. You just kind of need to get that expansion for it. But with this, you've got 1 player as the rebels doing hit and run raid missions, trying to keep their rebel base hidden long enough in order to get enough people on their side, whereas the Empire is looking around going, where are you? I'm coming. It's like, maybe not quite that way. I mean, can you imagine Darth Vader doing that? Lord help me, what? But you're trying to seek out the rebel base and blow it up. So one side has got a very different game to the other side, but the mechanics sort of weave within each other. Each person is sending out their own leaders against each other, and you are basically playing through the 3 original films, but you can change the story a little bit. Maybe Leia is the one who got frozen in carbonate instead. Maybe, Tarkin actually got destroyed at the last, in the first battle that he was in. Maybe Luke Skywalker didn't become the best Jedi in the world. It's all sorts of cool stuff that you can throw in, and with that expansion you can add the Rogue One characters as well. maybe you can actually make them a bit more interesting than they were in the actual movie, but never mind. So this one just, it really does work as a great two-player game, but the one problem with it that is making it drop slightly further down the list as time goes by is that it's like a 3-hour game, and it's it's a bit of a beast to teach. You've got a lot of rules to teach. I'm not playing this with the same person each time, so I've got to do that teach over and over again. It's a long game. I probably can't even remember the rules to it now. I'm probably going to have to watch a Rodney Played video or something in order to learn the game again. It's hard to remember it in your head, because for someone like me who can't get two-player games to the table very regularly, it's a bit of an annoying factor. But it's one of those factors that I'm willing to put up with, because when it is played, oh my word, is it fun. Star Wars Rebellion. My number 62 has dropped, I believe, 14 places since last time. Still going pretty strong. I still enjoy this as one of my favourite deck builders, and if you've got the base set alone, like the tiny little packs, then this is a deck builder I recommend to teach people how to deck build, especially if they like space games. Star Rounds. Good old Star Rounds. And for the most part, I don't tend to play this as a two-player game. I mean, I certainly don't like playing it multiplayer that much. I mean, multiplayer is a little bit kind of unwieldy at times, especially for those who've not played it before, but two-player head-to-head on the app is really good fun, super quick, just nice simple deck building mechanics, but with all the different bases and ships that you can use. The artwork is some of the most gorgeous space artwork I have seen in most games. Not the best ever, but I mean, I do look at those cards and just go, oh, it's so colourful, it's just so striking. But one thing I really like with the Star Realms game at the moment is the co-op, or to be more precise, solo campaign stuff that you can do in it. Or is it a campaign? No, sorry, the mission scenarios. You've got a bunch of standalone missions where you go up against effectively an AI, and the missions can be like a blob invasion, it could be the singularity that's about to explode, it could be a pirate raiding fleet, all sorts of different things that happen, which change the setup rules for the game and your winning conditions, and then you play the game effectively against that AI. They're very challenging, they're quite tricky, and it's probably my favourite way to play Star Realms at the moment. Everything I've got is in there, there's enough content for it out. I don't think I've got everything, and frankly I don't care, because again, it will suffer that problem of expansion bloat if you're not careful. But I've got no shortage of cards in there, but even if you just simply said, look, I've got the original 10 quid pack here, basic cards, do you want to have a two-player game of it? I'd love to. You can get it done nice and quick, and deck building's always a good genre of mine. Seriously, if you've not had a chance to try Star Realms, give it a shot, especially if you want to dip your toes into something that's relatively light in terms of deck building, and you're not too interested in Dominion that I mentioned on the previous list. My number 61 has dropped 24 places. That's mainly because I've been playing it more in its base set form at the moment, and I personally prefer to play it in its expanded form with the extra cards thrown in. It's a great game that's mixing cards with dice, with some interesting Euro mechanics, and a slightly pasted but still interesting theme, and great aesthetics, and that is, do I need to say what it is? Yeah, come on. How can I not talk about Seasons without getting the dice out for you guys? You keep talking about it all the time and I keep doing it. Seasons is a great card dice game where you've got a sort of wizard tournament. You've got 3 years to get all these cards out in front of you, score some points, gain crystals. But all the cards have different effects. You can build different strategies for how you play the game. But the thing I love about it, and I'm not just talking about the component quality because these dice are so good. But, I mean, come on. These dice, they're amazing. They are amazing. But with these, it's basically drafting dice, which I like doing. They're all custom. But the thing I love with this is the fact that, as it's called Seasons, you work on a timer track. So as you're going through the 3 years, you've got the 4 different seasons, spring, summer, etc. And each one has their own set of these chunky dice that you roll. And believe me, rolling these dice is... okay, I'm not going to say half the fun in the game, because that sounds like the game's not very good. But let's face it, I look forward to doing it. And you roll, like, say, the blue for winter and the red for autumn and the yellow for summer, and you're trying to get mana, different elemental mana, in order to cast your cards, but different mana is available at different times of the year. So in winter it's easy to get yourself water and air, but it's impossible to get yourself fire. Whereas in spring, you're never going to get yourself any air, but you can certainly get yourself a decent amount of earth and water while you're at it. So you have to kind of plan ahead for when that timer is going to happen. And again, this uses one of those great drafting mechanics that I love, which is after you have drafted every single die, the one that is left dictates how fast the timer moves. So you end up on turns thinking, well, if I take that die, I'll get this, but then it's going to fast forward all the way through summer, and I kind of need to stay in summer for a bit longer, so maybe I'll take this die just so we can hang around a bit longer. But then occasionally your strategy might require you to rush through the game as fast as you can before the other players build up, in which case you leave every single die possible to fast forward the timer. And I just really enjoy this one. Now, the base set alone, I've kind of seen all the cards that there is, but the 2 expansions bring in some okay-ish mechanics. I don't tend to use them for the mechanics, but they bring in more cards, more variety. And so with those extra effects, you've got a lot of different ways to play. The deck's not diluted because you kind of have to work with the cards that you've got, and you draft these at the start of the game anyway, a bit like in Res Arcana, I suppose you could say. Similarities. In fact, actually, yeah, that's something I could compare this to. This is my Res Arcana. Now, Res Arcana is a lot more simple. There's no theme in that at all, but you're effectively drafting a bunch of cards, then you use the cards to get points. Most points wins. This is effectively Res Arcana Advanced, with a lot more component quality. So that's kind of the way I'd put it, actually. I wonder if anyone else would make that comparison. But yeah, my number 61, good old Seasons. So yeah, that's it for these 10. Whew, another list of fantastic games. And on the next set of 10, again, 1 new game to the list, and then the rest you've seen before. Same for the list after that, and the list after that, you know. So there's not a huge amount of new games that have settled into the middle of the list. They've kind of either been at the bottom of the list or they've hit at the top. But that's not to say you haven't got a decent list of fantastic games to come. In fact, in the next one, we're looking at... I don't think we've got anything particularly heavy in the next list. The heaviest game is only heavy in the sense of its girth and content. That one's semi-heavy. Hard to say, but for the most part, you've got some fairly light or mid-weight affair coming up. So hopefully you'll enjoy that list. Now, I hope you've been enjoying my videos on the Broken Meeple, but I'm not the only content creator out there, and I urge you to check opinions from multiple different personalities in order to make your decisions when thinking about grabbing some extra games for your collection. So why don't you check out this channel and see if they're right for you.
Hello, I'm Niramas, and I'm here today with Draco, my co-host, and Pet Dragon. And we hang out at Boardgames with Niramas, which is a YouTube channel about board and card games, and we try to bring you the hottest, newest games on the table to show you in playthroughs, unboxings, top 10 lists, and some live streams as well. So go check us out on YouTube, Boardgames with Niramas, where you can find a lot of videos. We've been active for 4 years, and there's a lot of playthroughs out there. So thank you for the chance to talk to you a little bit like this. Have a great evening, morning, or whenever you're watching. Take care. Bye bye.
So that's it for me on this episode of the Broken Meeple. If you liked what you see and have earned your subscription, please click the button in the center of the screen to subscribe and hit the bell for future notifications. Until next time, you can check out the most recent content on the channel, or you can check out the most recent episode on the Top 100. Until next time, see you soon, and remember, it's only a game.